Alexander the Great stood on the shores of Tyre, his gaze cutting across the shimmering blue of the Mediterranean, his mind already calculating the impossible. The city loomed ahead, a fortress rising from the sea itself, an island of stone that had defied empires for centuries. Its walls were high, its ramparts impregnable, and yet Alexander saw not an obstacle, but a challenge written in destiny. His army, the finest the world had ever seen, looked to him for guidance, but even they knew this was no ordinary siege. Tyre was a jewel of the Phoenician world, its wealth legendary, its naval power unmatched, and it would not surrender easily. He turned to his generals, voice cutting through the salt-laden air. "We will not wait. We will not starve. Tyre will fall, and we will make history." The men nodded, their hearts pounding, knowing that this was a moment where courage would be tested against the unyielding stone of human ingenuity. The problem was clear. Tyre could not be reached by conventional means. It was an island fortress, isolated, surrounded by treacherous waters, and protected by walls so high they seemed to scrape the sky. Every assault attempted by past conquerors had failed. Alexander's reputation, though vast, had never been tested like this. Yet he did not hesitate. His mind, always one step ahead, conceived a plan audacious enough to shock the world. A causeway, a mole of earth and timber, a bridge stretching 700 meters across open water, directly to the heart of the city. Soldiers, engineers, and laborers set to work immediately. They hauled stone and timber, filling the shallows, constructing a path across the deep waters. Waves crashed against their makeshift embankment, yet the men labored tirelessly, driven by fear, duty, and the promise of glory. Every night, Alexander inspected the work, standing at the edge of the shore, envisioning the moment when his army would march across the sea itself. The Tyrians watched in disbelief from their walls. Day after day, Alexander's engineers pushed forward, building siege towers and battering engines atop the causeway. Archers rained arrows on anyone who dared approach, but the Macedonians persisted. The noise of construction echoed across the water, a constant reminder that the island was not beyond reach. Tyre's defenders were clever, sending fireships to disrupt the work, launching sorties to destroy the causeway, and mocking the audacity of Alexander's plan. But for every setback, the Macedonians adapted. Floating platforms were reinforced, walls of stone replenished, and the work pressed on with relentless determination. Alexander understood the psychology of war as much as its mechanics. The Tyrians were proud, skilled and well fortified, but their isolation was also their vulnerability. Supplies ran low, morale wavered, messages of defiance grew desperate. Alexander exploited every weakness, sending detachments to harass, intercept, and demoralize, making the siege not only a test of engineering, but a battle of wills. Months passed. The causeway rose from the sea like a serpent, unstoppable, impervious to Tyrian sabotage. Alexander's siege towers now stood at the edge of the island, bristling with catapults and ballistae. From these vantage points, Macedonian forces could bombard the walls, weakening the once impenetrable defenses. The Tyrians responded with equal ferocity, but each missile fired was met with another, each countermeasure met with a superior one. The siege became a symphony of destruction, a relentless demonstration of human ingenuity and ambition. Alexander himself rarely rested. He moved among his men, inspecting defenses, encouraging the weary, and inspiring the ambitious. "Fortune favors the bold," he declared, "and Tyre will fall because we refuse to fail." His voice carried over the waves, a mixture of authority and magnetism that bound the army to his vision. The soldiers, seeing their king undaunted by the impossible, pushed beyond exhaustion, knowing that history was being written in sweat, blood, and stone. Finally, the moment of culmination arrived. The Macedonian siege towers, massive and unstoppable, rumbled along the causeway, battering the weakened walls. Arrows darkened the sky. Catapults hurled rocks like thunderbolts, and fire engulfed sections of the city. The Tyrians fought with desperation, pouring everything into defense. But Alexander's strategy was flawless. He had turned the impossibility of their island fortress into a trap. The very water that protected them became the stage for their defeat. The walls cracked, Sections collapsed under relentless assault. Tyrian ships were destroyed or captured. Panic spread through the city. Alexander's troops, disciplined and unrelenting, poured across the causeway, finally stepping onto the island that had taunted empires for centuries. The siege had taken 7 months, but the result was absolute. Tyre, once untouchable, now lay at Alexander's feet. And yet the conquest was not merely a physical victory. It was psychological, a demonstration of absolute determination. Tyre had been the jewel of the Mediterranean, the pride of Phoenicia, and its fall sent shockwaves through every kingdom and city that dared oppose Alexander. The world witnessed a general who could turn impossibility into inevitability, who could defy nature itself to impose his will. Alexander's treatment of the city was brutal but calculated. Resistance was crushed, leaders executed, and the population dispersed or enslaved. It was a warning, a message to all who might oppose him. Ambition without action is nothing. Determination backed by ingenuity is unstoppable. The streets of Tyre, once vibrant with commerce and trade, now bore the scars of one man's vision realized through unwavering force. The siege of Tyre became legendary, not just for its scale or its ferocity, but for its audacity. No prior conqueror had attempted such a feat. None had imagined bridging the sea itself to claim an island fortress. Alexander's combination of tactical genius, engineering brilliance, and psychological warfare redefined what conquest could be. Future generations would study it, not only for the mechanics of the siege, but for the demonstration of human will at its most extreme. Every decision Alexander made during the siege was calculated for maximum effect. From the initial audacious plan to construct the causeway, to the constant adaptation against Tyrian counterattacks, to the final assault, every action reinforced his legend. His soldiers witnessed a commander who could see victory where others saw futility, who could inspire a weary army to march through impossibility as though it were a natural path. It was a performance of genius, and history would remember it as such. When Tyre finally fell, Alexander did not simply claim a city, he claimed an idea. The idea that no fortress is unbreachable, no challenge insurmountable, no obstacle too great for a mind willing to imagine beyond the ordinary. The Mediterranean trembled before him, and the ripple effects were felt across nations, as merchants, rulers, and generals alike realized that the age of Alexander had arrived. The causeway, once a desperate gamble, became a monument to ambition. Soldiers crossed it, moving with purpose, bringing war machines and siege engines, transforming a once impossible approach into a pathway of inevitability. Tyre's walls, symbols of centuries of invulnerability, crumbled under the weight of human determination combined with strategic brilliance. The city was no longer a fortress. It was a testament to what one man and his army could achieve when daring, ingenuity, and relentless pressure converged. Even after the battle, stories spread of the audacity displayed. Observers marveled at the scale of the operation, the cleverness of adapting the landscape itself to military needs, and the sheer nerve it took to challenge an island city head-on. Alexander had done more than conquer Tyre. He had demonstrated a philosophy of warfare, a principle that bold action, meticulous planning, and unyielding resolve could overcome the mightiest defenses. The psychological impact was immediate. Coastal cities trembled, knowing that if Tyre could fall, no stronghold was safe. Alexander's reputation grew from a brilliant general to a near mythical figure. Tyre was a warning to all, a symbol that resistance against him was not just futile, but suicidal. Generals who had once prided themselves on impenetrable fortresses began to reconsider their strategies. Merchants feared the reach of his armies, and the world slowly bent to the notion that Alexander's will was unstoppable. Months of relentless work, brutal assaults, and careful strategy culminated in a victory that resonated far beyond the walls of Tyre. Alexander's mind had converted natural obstacles into tactical advantages. His army, inspired by his example, became more than a force. They became a symbol of what disciplined determination and strategic genius could achieve. Each soldier, each engineer, each laborer who had contributed to the causeway and the siege understood they were part of something historic. a story that would be told for centuries. The siege also revealed the depths of Alexander's understanding of human psychology. He knew fear could be a weapon as potent as swords and catapults. Tyre's leaders resisted, yes, but Alexander's constant pressure, his clever maneuvers, his ability to adapt to setbacks, gradually eroded their morale. By the time the walls finally fell, the city was not only physically defeated, but psychologically broken. The conquest was total, a demonstration that mind and will could shape reality as surely as any weapon. When the dust settled, Alexander walked through the remnants of Tyre, surveying a city transformed by ambition, ingenuity, and unrelenting force. He had built a causeway across the sea, turned the impossible into the inevitable, and cemented his place in history. The Mediterranean, once a barrier, had become a bridge to conquest. And from that moment on, no fortress would feel safe, no island untouchable, no empire immune to the reach of Alexander's vision. Tyre would forever be remembered as the city that dared to resist and the island that fell because a man refused to accept impossibility. Alexander's causeway was more than stone and timber. It was a monument to audacity, a testament to human will, and a vivid reminder that history is written not by the cautious, but by those who dare to cross the seas of impossibility, step onto the walls of the unconquerable, and claim victory against all odds. And so, the legend of Tyre endured, a story of boldness, brilliance, and relentless ambition. Alexander the Great had proven once again that the impossible was merely an invitation. The world watched, awed, as he moved onward, leaving behind a trail of conquered cities, shattered fortresses, and an indelible mark on history that would never fade. Tyre was gone. The Mediterranean trembled, and the name of Alexander would echo across the ages, a reminder that no challenge is too great, no obstacle insurmountable, and no city beyond the reach of a mind and will, willing to defy the impossible. The siege was over, but its story was eternal.